Any day can be difficult when you're bereaved, but there are particular aspects around Christmas that can make it difficult for the bereaved, particularly if it's the first year following the death of somebody significant in the family. Christmas is a bittersweet time for many people. It's associated with childhood memories of Christmas, be they good or bad. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of media around Christmas, there's the expectation that we have a happy family and that we're going to enjoy a nice day with family and friends, and that's not the reality for a lot of people, and it's very often not the reality for someone when they're bereaved. So I think along with the loss that may have been there since the death of the significant person, there's the additional stress of Christmas and that the loss can be felt very keenly around Christmas time.
Is it that people's awareness of the absence of the person is stronger at Christmas?
I think possibly their awareness of the absence of someone can be stronger at Christmas. Most families have traditions and roles that they take on around Christmas. So there may be the youngest in the family that still believes in Santa, the person who buys the turkey, decorates the tree, whatever it might be. And then the role that the bereaved person would have played is suddenly left vacant. And I think those losses are felt very deeply at Christmas.
Some people then might be dreading Christmas and dreading the approach of Christmas if they're bereaved recently. Are there any tips that you can give people for managing the Christmas period?
It's not unusual that as you get into September, October, people are already beginning to articulate a dread of Christmas or a worrying, a feeling that it's kind of looming on the horizon. I think there are several things that people do in terms of coping that may not be very helpful. One is people just not engaging with Christmas, just kind of hoping if I don't think about it, it'll somehow go away. On the other hand, people just feeling it'll somehow happen and it'll be the way it always was. And neither of those are reality. What actually happens is that Christmas happens whether we engage with it or not. I think the other difficulty that people have sometimes with it is in trying to protect other people in the family or friends. They don't mention the person that has died, even though they may be thinking about it themselves. And you get a situation where nobody is talking because everybody is trying to protect each other. And I think then it can potentially leave everyone feeling, gosh, I'm the only one that's missing them, or I can't bring it up because it'll upset so-and-so. And there's this wall of silence that makes it difficult for everybody. Well, I would always say to someone, you're the best person to decide what helps you. But if we were to give a couple of suggestions, the one I would mostly focus on is to say to somebody, try to plan Christmas. It is going to happen. It's just a day. You will get through it. But rather than seeing it as some big black cloud that's coming and is going to get you, that we can break it down a little bit. If we think of Christmas Day and say to someone, just plan it. You might already know what are the hot spots in that day, what are the times in the day that might be difficult, and to actually break it down maybe into early morning, late morning, the same in the afternoon and in the evening. To keep things simple, to accept help, to take some time for yourself to actually plan that into the day. Grieving is exhausting and Christmas can be exhausting, and putting both of those together, you can be very, very tired if you're bereaved. So I would certainly suggest to people to take some time where they can actually schedule in to go to their room, to have a nap, to take a bit of walk, to have some quiet time. The planning would also be around thinking, what was the role that the person that died played at Christmas, and what you might do with that. Now that can be a very painful piece to be thinking about or deciding what you might want to do. But if it's, for example, if that's the person that used to go and pick out the Christmas tree, then choices have to be made. But even on the saddest days, there may be moments that uplift us. There may be the littlest things of maybe a grandchild coming to visit, or hearing carol singers, or a note put through your door that says somebody's thinking of you, that can lift our spirits even for a few moments. So while there may be much sad in the day, there may also be lighter moments, and we can notice those.
So it's okay then to be sad and also happy at the same time or on the same day?
Yeah, and it's very likely that there'll be a mixture on the day. You may find there's moments where you do celebrate who is still in your life and who you are celebrating the day with, while also noticing what we sometimes call that shadow grief of saying, and wouldn't it be lovely if so-and-so was here. One other thing we might mention, it's important, I think, if there's children in the family, that they are directly addressed around Christmas, because while children grieve, they like things to stay the same, and they may need some reassurance that Christmas is still going to happen, and that Santa will still come, and that it's okay for them to be happy and to be looking forward to getting presents or whatever it might be, but that's very directly explained to them. Now, maybe somebody else might be organising the presents for the day, but it is important, I think, to have that conversation with children.
And are there any other areas that people might get into difficulties with, Susan, in around Christmas and grieving? Is it just the one day you think about, or do you think about the holiday period?
It's difficult to think what might indeed be the saddest day out of Christmas time. Sometimes we prepare very well for the actual day, and particularly if it's the first year of bereavement, friends and family can be good about rallying, organising rotas around meals and how you'll be minded on the day. But there can be very sad days after Christmas, and for some people New Year's Eve can be a particularly difficult one. And as we said at the start, any day can be difficult. You can be walking down the street and be sideswiped by your grief by a certain sound or smell or something that you see. So I think it can be a mistake sometimes to put too much emphasis on one day. And if we're in a position of supporting bereaved people, to remember it's not just the 25th of December. There's 364 other days to get through to.
Right. And for some people, they might say, well, lots of friends might come around and say, but come over to my house, or come here, come there. They're keeping people busy at Christmas. Is this a good thing for people to do when they're supporting people who are bereaved? Keep them busy, keep their mind off things?
People are different in how they choose to spend their time, and the person themselves is always the best judge of what suits them. Some people like to stay busy, some people like to have some quiet time. For most people, it'll be a mixture of both. Staying busy and staying in contact with other people can help with what we call the social loneliness, that feeling very isolated. But in the early days of bereavement, that heart sadness is not particularly helped by being with other people. And that's why we recommend maybe some time alone, some time with others. If possible, I would say to people, try and accept one invitation. Because it helps with that social loneliness to be connected, and give yourself a get out of jail free card. Say to yourself, I'll go for 15 minutes and I'll see how I do, and I'll leave if I can't manage. Sometimes it'll depend. Different days hit us differently when we're bereaved. Someday you may be able to manage it better than on another day. So sometimes that coping strategy of saying, well, I'll go for a few minutes and I'll see how I get on or how I do, and I'll come away. And occasionally we surprise ourselves in realising that even in grief there can be less sad moments.
Great. And if you had one final piece of advice that you give to a bereaved person who's preparing for Christmas or looking into Christmas, what would that be?
In a nutshell, as we're looking at coping with Christmas, I would say to people, make a plan that suits you, and remind yourself that ultimately it's one day and you will get through it.